Right now at 6, voters head to the polls tomorrow. We're going over some key races in our area and information on some major referendums facing voters.
A reminder about fire safety after firefighters say a child playing likely caused a major apartment fire in Cambridge.
From the Channel3000.com Alert Center, this is News 3 Now at 6.
Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow is Election Day in Wisconsin.
Voters will decide on things like who will become the next mayor of Madison and Fitchburg. We have team coverage tonight ahead of tomorrow's election.
We start with Rose Schmidt, who is previewing the race for Supreme Court, the only statewide race this year. Rose?
Yes, well, the candidates are each vowing to stay unbiased and uphold the Constitution if elected to the open seat on the state Supreme Court. Conservatively backed Judge Brian Hagedorn closed out his campaign today in the Green Bay area at private events. Meanwhile, Judge Lisa Neubauer, who's backed by liberal groups, spent the day encouraging UW-Milwaukee students to vote. This race is officially nonpartisan, but both candidates have benefited from partisan groups, but say that would not influence any decisions they would make if elected to the Supreme Court bench.
What I have presented to the voters is a person who is strongly committed to being fair, impartial, independent. That's what I've done for 11 years. That's why I have bipartisan support.
I hope that everybody wants 7 members of the Wisconsin Supreme Court who have that judicial philosophy, who are going to look at what the law says and just the law.
Both candidates currently serve together on the State Court of Appeals. Neubauer was appointed by former Democratic Governor Jim Doyle in 2007 after 20 years in private practice. Former Republican Governor Scott Walker appointed Hagedorn to the appeals court in 2015 after he served as Walker's chief legal counsel. The Wisconsin Supreme Court currently leans 4-3. Neubauer and Hagedorn are each looking to replace longtime Justice Shirley Abrahamson.
Rose, thank you. Also on the ballot tomorrow will be the Madison mayoral election, where Satya Rhodes-Conway is challenging current mayor Paul Soglin. Soglin and Rhodes-Conway are advocating for a number of the same issues, like bringing housing and addressing inequity in the community, but they say they would each bring something different to the job. Soglin, of course, is the longtime mayor who's been in the job since 2011 after serving in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, while Rhodes-Conway vows to bring a change to Madison.
I am a collaborative leader. I'm prepared to work with the county, with the school board, with the surrounding communities to take on the toughest challenges that Madison is facing.
I've done it. I've made a difference. We've seen the consequences of that in terms of the improvement. And my opponents, theorized about it and had a chance on the city council, but really didn't produce anything.
Mayor Soglin spent his final day before the election as a guest on the Spanish-language radio station La Movida, while Rhodes-Conway campaigned by going door-to-door on Madison's north side. Fitchburg voters will also decide on their next mayor tomorrow as well.
Some of you will see some referendums on your ballots tomorrow. Voters in Sun Prairie will be asked to support a $164 million proposal to build a new high school. There's another question asking for $5 million a year for construction cost and teacher salary raises. If both referendums are approved, it would cost the owner of a $250,000 home another $236 a year in property taxes. Those in the Milton School District will decide whether or not to pass a $60 million referendum. Voters will decide if the district can borrow that money to make facility improvements to all of its schools except for Northside Intermediate. That includes meeting ADA requirements, adding spaces for math, science, and technology classes, and renovating common areas. For homeowners, the referendum would raise property taxes about $164 per $100,000 of property value. Milton voters have rejected 2 referendums in the past 3 years.
And in Middleton, voters will decide whether their stormwater bill should triple to help the city make repairs from last summer's flooding. The city counted more than $5 million in damage to its stormwater management facilities during all of that rain. The referendum asks if homeowners are willing to pay $45 for their stormwater utility charge instead of the current rate of $15 through the year 2024. The city might also get some help from FEMA, but it's not clear yet how much.
Many are wondering if young voters will show up at the polls in big numbers tomorrow like they did in last year's midterm election. Amanda Quintana has more on the impact voters under age 30 could make on this election.
Yes, well, usually midterm elections are not as popular among young voters as presidential elections, and spring elections are even less popular. Are students aware that this election is even happening? And if so, do they care enough to choose a candidate?
I plan to vote just because I love being involved. I love being active in the community.
For UW-Madison political science student Kyle Casey, whether he's voting tomorrow isn't even a question. But for his peers that don't study politics, it's still unclear if they'll show up.
The local race, the mayoral election, is definitely something that affects students, and so definitely something they should care about, I would say.
Generally, young people don't vote in midterms. They vote even less in spring elections. Spring elections are for school boards and mayors, and young people are often a little more transient, less engaged with those local issues.
But if the 2018's midterm is any proof, things are changing. Wisconsin's young voters turned up in record numbers, an estimated 80,000 more than 2014, ultimately pushing Governor Tony Evers to victory.
He had a 23% margin over his opponent, Scott Walker. In the 2014 election, the Democrat Mary Burke only had a 4% margin. So you can see the difference between 4% and 23% is huge.
UW journalism professor Lou Friedland says although many of his students are still surprised there's an election tomorrow, last year's enthusiasm could carry over, giving young people an even louder voice in a smaller election. Many students are realizing the importance of the state Supreme Court race that's technically nonpartisan.
We are cognizant of it, and we know the name of the person who's associated with which party.
Angela Peterson says for many of her fellow students, it's easier to vote along party lines for that race. But choosing a Madison mayoral candidate takes more research.
The grand scheme of government won't change. This city is still going to be run by someone who has Democratic leanings, and students don't have as much of a reason to care.
Research, although she's willing to do, people just here for school might not be. Groups trying to encourage more young voters are making their final push tonight. Next Gen volunteers who tend to lean left are canvassing off-campus apartments, making sure students have plans to vote tomorrow. The college Republicans are doing the same, trying to convince people to support Judge Brian Hagedorn.
Amanda, thank you. Spanish language ballots will be available at every polling place in Dane County. The bilingual ballots will be available on the handicap accessible machines. People can select what language they would like to use, similar to using an ATM. Just a reminder, the polls open at 7 a.m. and close at 8 p.m.
Let's check your first alert forecast now with Chief Meteorologist Gary Canalti. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Charlotte. We had a cool weekend, but temperatures are a little milder today thanks to some sunshine that we had this afternoon. We started out the morning with some clouds on visible cloud track, but you can see how the sunshine developed from Madison toward the south and west. Now the clouds are starting to roll back in. As far as precipitation is concerned, there were some light snow showers in east central Wisconsin. Those have moved away to our west. Another batch of light snow showers will probably change to rain showers before they reach southern Wisconsin. There could still be some flakes of snow mixed in late tonight, well north and west of Madison, but that'll still be a ways off. Otherwise, low temperatures this morning started out in the upper 20s in Madison. It was colder to the north and east. A few places were down to around 20 or in the upper teens, whereas southwestern Wisconsin had a little more cloud cover and temperatures are closer to 30. High temperatures today were in the lower to middle 50s over southwestern Wisconsin, again because of sunshine, whereas areas to the north and east didn't get out of the 30s, including 37 degrees in Manitowoc. Current temperatures range from the upper 30s and lower 40s near Lake Michigan to the lower 50s south and west of Madison. Right in town, we're at 50 degrees. The winds, though, still pretty brisk, about 10 to 20 miles per hour. We've seen some wind gusts in the last hour at about 35 miles per hour. Those winds are starting to die down. By tomorrow morning, look for some rain showers, perhaps mixed in with a few flakes of snow north and west of Madison. Low temperature tomorrow morning around 35, but some sunshine tomorrow afternoon will get the high temperature back up to 53. That's your News 3 Now First Alert forecast.
Gary, thank you. Officials say a devastating fire in a Cambridge apartment complex started accidentally by a child.
It happened a little after 2:30 yesterday afternoon on the 300 block of North Pleasant Street, and that's where we find our Madeline O'Neill live with more. Maddie?
Susan and Charlotte, 3 families are still waiting to go home tonight. Now you can see the second apartment is completely destroyed with estimates of more than $300,000 worth of damage to this building. Officials say it all started when a child was playing with a lighter and flames quickly spread from there.
Called to a structure fire, which was only about 2 blocks away from the station for an involved building.
With a quick drive over, it took Cambridge firefighters and assisting agencies about 20 minutes to extinguish the flames.
There was flames and smoke coming from 2 different sides, north and south of the building.
But by then, the damage was done.
That unit, and I think the unit to the west of that, is probably real damage too.
Cambridge Fire Chief Terry Johnson says the fire began in the 2nd unit. The family living there tried to put out the fire themselves, but couldn't get the flames under control. According to the Dane County Sheriff's Office, it began after an 8-year-old playing with a torch lighter he uses for crafts accidentally set a couch on fire.
Certainly we want to have the kids aware that these things are real dangerous, especially in a building, whether it's out of a building or in a building, but inside a building, if things start quickly and people can be in danger.
Johnson says it's a reminder.
You got to keep them up high, or put away, locked up, or at least out of their reach.
The Red Cross is assisting displaced families, including the man who lived in this apartment where the fire started. Now, he tells us he did lose a good amount of cash he had been saving up, but most importantly, he says everyone got out safely, including his 2 boys. The rest, he says, are just things. Now, there is a GoFundMe page set up for the family. You can find a link to that on our website in the story about this fire. Charlotte and Susan.
Madeline O'Neill live in Cambridge. Maddie, thank you.
The Madison Police Department is asking people to be on the lookout for this car. They believe it and those inside are connected to several theft cases from the weekend over in the Post Road area, which is off Fish Hatchery Road. Anyone with information is asked to call Crime Stoppers at the number you see there on your screen, 608-266-6014.
You might start seeing more hybrid and electric vehicles on Madison streets. The city of Madison is phasing 60 hybrid and electric vehicles into its fleet this year. City officials expect each hybrid will save about $1,000 of gasoline per year, allowing the city to recoup the higher upfront costs of the vehicles in 2 years. The move to hybrid and electric vehicles is part of the city's goal to achieve 100% renewable energy and net zero carbon emissions by the year 2030.
Well, it's a different kind of high church.
When we come back, how members of one religious group in Madison are able to legally use marijuana despite it being illegal in Wisconsin.
Marijuana is not legal in the state of Wisconsin, but a new church here in Madison is saying, yes, we can abyss through religious means. In 2006, the Supreme Court ruled that illegal drugs can be used for religious practices. This particular church, known as the Lion of Judah House of Rastafari, even has documentation from the state of Wisconsin legitimizing them. Marijuana is just a part of their religious sacrament, but they do not sell it. It can only be gifted to members of the church who donate to them.
UW-Madison is one of 10 universities in the country at the center of an unprecedented research program designed to help keep future generations healthier. The goal of the program, called All of Us, is to enroll 1 million people nationwide in the program, 100,000 of them in Wisconsin. It's something that you can be a part of to help researchers learn more about the illnesses that affect everyone. Annie Weatherby says her family history led her to sign up to help try to find answers for her grandchildren.
Just wanting to find out why, trying to connect that to the origin, and maybe look at preventing or doing some intervention for my grandbabies and future generations.
It's the first really huge initiative to get enough people that are diverse enough to really begin to address these problems in a representative sample.
Eric Franke has Annie's story and tells us more about the All of Us research program and how you can get involved. That's tonight on News 3 Now at 10. And Eric will be back here on News 3 Now at 6 tomorrow. It is April 1st and the April showers are right on cue.
Gary's talking about our chance for showers next in his first alert forecast.
Is the wind dying down out there, Gary?
It is. It's going to die down pretty quickly this evening. So But those winds were out of the south today, and that made a difference in the temperatures. They were up in the 50s. Let's start out by taking a look at visible cloud track. The other thing that helped is we had some sunshine this afternoon, so it wasn't a complete cloudy day. We had the clouds this morning, and then watch as this little tongue of clearing worked its way in ahead of a cold front, which is coming in from the west. It will probably generate a couple of showers later on tonight into tomorrow morning. But right now, one batch of light snow showers has moved north and east out of Wisconsin. The next batch, mainly flurries with a little bit of light rain mixed in there across southwestern Minnesota into northwestern Iowa. This will primarily change to rain showers by the time it reaches us because temperatures are warmer here. But areas north and west of Madison that'll be in the middle 30s, closer to the freezing mark, could see a mixture of rain and snow showers, but I don't think anything that'll stick to the ground. Time lapse from the WISC sky cam looking off toward the east shows the cloudy skies that we had this morning giving way to some afternoon sunshine. You can see how that kind of filtered on through, and then the clouds kind of thickened up again as we headed late into the afternoon. There's the live view from the WISC sky cam. Skies are mostly cloudy now, and the Platteville Queeby radio sky cam, they also had some sunshine earlier today. It's now mostly cloudy in Platteville. The Edgewater sky cam in downtown Madison showing mostly cloudy skies past the Capitol. But as we look at our almanac for today, our high temperature did make it up to 51 degrees, which is exactly normal for this time of year. Low temperature of 28, pretty close to the average of 30. And right now we're sitting at 50 degrees. Skies are mostly cloudy. Winds are out of the south-southwest. They've diminished now to 10 miles per hour, and we should see those winds die off pretty quickly after sunset. You see current temperatures are in the 50s or around 50 over southwestern Wisconsin. Closer to Lake Michigan, they're in the 40s and then 30s with a lake breeze from about Manitowoc northward toward Green Bay. The far northern parts of the state also underneath cloud cover and temperatures that are in the 30s. But notice the strongest winds now are shifting into Illinois and closer to Lake Michigan. North and west of Madison, those winds shift to a westerly direction and they decrease in speed. So we're seeing the strongest wind gusts still over southern Wisconsin and in northern Illinois, around 30 miles per hour, but those winds will die down pretty quickly over the next few hours. As we look at the overall weather pattern, right now upper level winds are from the west, but a storm system to our west will shift winds to a southwesterly directions late in the week, and that will bring in even milder weather as we head toward the weekend. So look for a low of 35 for tonight, some scattered showers developing, maybe mixed with a few flakes of snow north and west of Madison toward morning. Tomorrow we'll look for some morning showers and then some sunshine returning later in the day. That'll get high temperatures right back up to 53 degrees. As we check out future track, notice the shower chances increasing a little bit later on tonight, mixed with a little snow north and west of Madison. Then tomorrow that all moves out. We get some sunshine later in the day, temperatures back into the 50s. Tomorrow night we'll turn partly cloudy with low temperatures dropping to the lower 30s. Wednesday we'll see sunshine for much of the day with highs in the lower 50s. The clouds start moving in late in the day. That could lead to some showers from Wednesday night into Thursday. Thursday will be a little cooler, but look at those temperatures as we head toward next weekend. Mid to upper 60s with some shower and thunderstorm chances from Sunday afternoon into Monday.
The Brewers take their show on the road for the first time this season. Stories coming up in sports. The Brewers have started their first road trip of the season. They're in Cincinnati to play the Reds the next 3 days. Brewers up 3-0 already in the second inning. Zach Davies is the Brewers' starting pitcher tonight. They took 3 of 4 from the Cardinals to open the season at Miller Park. Christian Yelich homered in all 4 games. He had the game-winning double in yesterday's dramatic 5-4 walk-off win. The Brewers appear to have the same magic they had last year so far.
I think we know our identity as a team, how we win games. That seems to be our formula. There's different pieces, but guys got to step up, find a way to win. It's the same message we had last year, and it's great to see. It's great to see us get down early and fight back and find a way to win.
A week from today, the 2019 Green Bay Packers begin their journey. It'll be the first day of off-season workouts next Monday when new head coach Matt LaFleur really starts putting his stamp on things. The Packers announced the dates of their preseason workouts. There are 4 phases. A voluntary minicamp is the 3rd week in April. OTAs begin May 20th, run through June 6th. And the mandatory minicamp is June 11th through the 13th in Green Bay. Because LaFleur is a new head coach, the Packers get to start a week earlier than they would otherwise. It wasn't that long ago LaFleur was the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans. Now he's made the jump to be the head coach of the Packers, and LaFleur is realizing that's quite a jump.
Yeah, it's a little different. It's something that I'm going to embrace, but yeah, I think anytime for any of us, you have to sometimes get comfortable with the uncomfortable in order to grow. One of the beauties of being a new head coach is we are afforded to come in a week early, and we have that extra mini camp. So certainly we've got to maximize our time and make the most of it.
The Badger football team starts its second week of spring practice tomorrow morning at 8. Paul Chryst decided there won't be a spring football game this year. Last year's was canceled by expected bad weather, but this year a spring game isn't even scheduled. They'll have a free open practice April 13th instead.
It never was, or it stopped, I don't know really when it stopped, but stopped kind of becoming a game. And so you want to have something where it's open, so that's what we're going to have, hopefully an open, then people don't have to pay money for it. They just come in and hopefully see it, but you're not misrepresented by calling it a spring game.
We're your home for the Final Four this Saturday. It's at U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. That's where the Vikings play, of course. National semifinal game 1 is Auburn against Virginia just after 5. Game 2 is Texas Tech and Michigan State a little before 8 on Saturday. Michigan State returned home to East Lansing last night after beating Duke in the regional final. They didn't get to the Breslin Center till about 1 in the morning, but over 5,000 people showed up to welcome home the Spartans. Tom Izzo now says he felt what the Beatles felt like, and Izzo says the Spartans will work their butts off this week to bring them a championship, although he used a word other than butts.
That was an incredible game.
I found out how to not be disappointed by the tournament. Your team's losing. I didn't fill out a bracket this year. It's really easy. Relax, just enjoy the game.
It works.
I filled one out. And,
sorry.
Yeah, you get what you pay for, I suppose. Yeah. Temperatures right now are in the upper 40s to around 50 degrees, but look for a high back in the 50s for tomorrow.
All right, thanks, Gary.
Thank you for joining us. Enjoy your evening, and we will see you back here at 10.